Welcome to We the People, a new birth of freedom. Without independence, there can be no liberty. Without understanding independence and the sovereignty that goes with independence, there can be no freedom. Life cannot be lived to its fullest capability and capacity. Without independence, there is no justice. What astounds me is that our elected representatives in government attend law school. Well, first they have to get their associates and bachelors and at least a bachelor degree and then go on to 3 years of law school. And with all that study, with all that academic experience under their belt, many of them still cannot understand the language in our Charter of Liberty, which, as I always like to include, is the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. You can't leave the Declaration of Independence out. Because, as I have said before on previous videos, gallons and gallons and barrels of blood were shed on the battlefield in the War of Independence, the Civil War, so that individuals could have equal access to independence, which includes life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness, and the equality across the board that goes with that. That doesn't mean everyone is going to experience those things in the same capacity. But our founding fathers envisioned that every human being that comes forth from the womb has equal access. You see, we're all created equal. You know, the language, let me just interject to say this. The language in our founding documents are so simple. And so many times educated people stumble over the simplicity of it. Just read it for what it says. Don't try to read into it. Don't try to add something to it. Don't try to take something away from it. Just read it for what it says. That's the genius of those documents, the genius of those words. But they knew that all individuals were created equal. We all are birthed the same way. There's no exclusive individual among us that doesn't come forth from a mother's womb. And that birth, that biological experience, that birth, brings each and every individual, man and woman, into this world. And each of us have access to the life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness that our founding fathers spoke about and wrote about. But so many times, far too many times, politics, because politics does not operate by natural law, the law of nature and nature's God. It doesn't operate by that. And that's why Thomas Jefferson wanted to establish that truth, the truths of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness can only come by and be protected by the law of nature and nature's God. Politics can't give that. If you notice, if you just take a simple cursory view of history, every dictator, every single solitary dictator, monarch, emperor, pharaoh, how did they control the people? How did they manipulate the people? By legislating law. Now, laws have their place, but our founding fathers envisioned law to protect our life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness, not diminish it or take it away from law-abiding individuals. You see, the law was made for the lawless, not for those that keep the law. If I'm driving down the street obeying the speed limit, I don't have to worry about the law. I don't have to worry about getting stopped, cited. If I don't rob anyone, if I don't burglarize a house, if I don't murder anyone, I don't have to walk around with the oppressive burden of the law catching up to me, I'm a free man because I'm accountable and I'm responsible to the laws of nature and nature's God. It's the individual that violates the laws, that breaks the laws. That's what the law is for, to prosecute those individuals, not a free man or woman. But politics and legislation have made life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness so complex that it gets lost in the shuffle. You know, since we have two political parties, which are nothing but political cults, that's all they are. They rally around their demagogues who appeal to their emotions rather than truth in far too many cases. Let me say that again. Political parties are political cults. That's all they are. You know, so much is said about religious cults, but politics have their cultic figures also and their cultic parties. And they rally around their man or woman of the hour. You know, in religion, it's the preacher, it's the pastor, it's the minister, it's the pope. In politics, it's the politician. They are all political cults. But truth stands alone. Truth is inherent in our biology. Truth is inherent in our psychology. Truth is inherent in our intrinsic biological consciousness, our intrinsic biological constitution. That's where truth lays, because it's governed by the laws of nature, and nature's God. The politics gets in there, and they want to control something. They feel like we've got to control something. We've got to make this better. You can't make nature better. Can't do it. You cannot do it. Now, you can hybrid something to produce maybe something that looks better, but once you begin the hybridization process, you can never get back to the original. It's like breeding a horse and a donkey. Now, what happens when you breed a horse and a donkey? Well, you get a mule. Now, they work hard. They have a function. But try to breed back to the original horse or the original donkey. You can't do it. You've lost the original pattern. And so what happens is you end up with a counterfeit, a hybrid. And that's what's happened in government politics for decades and decades now. We have a bunch of hybrid, counterfeit Americans. They have politicized, legislated so many laws that many of them they don't enforce anyway, until the original understanding and vision of our founding fathers has been lost. Education is good. I have an education. I have a master's degree. But that doesn't define who I am. Neither do I let it guide my intellect or my insight or my perception. It has its place, but it doesn't own me. Those that have money, they let it define them. They let it own them as though it makes them something exclusive, some elitist group of people. It doesn't. Put your pants on the same way I do. You go to the bathroom the same way I do. You get hungry the same way I do. You're just a human being. We're all created equal. Just because you've accumulated a popular status, more financial power, more influence, doesn't make you better than me. You've just either taken advantage of opportunities that's been before you, or it's been all handed to you on a silver platter. Nevertheless, the people are looking for something real. The people are looking for truth. I mean, look what's going on in the government right now. There's so much confusion and chaos and lies and hypocrisy and corruption, debauchery, you name it. It's so reprehensible. Well, I would imagine that American government is the laughing stock of the world. And that's one thing I appreciate about President Trump. He's trying with everything he's got to get rid of some of this garbage that's been laying around Washington, D.C. for decades that stinks to high heaven. But as we continue these videos, I want you to understand that the simplicity of our founding documents are so clear, so precise, that it was written for the common man. Written for the common man. It was not written to be taken into a law school and put under a microscope and stretched and twisted and turned every which way until the whole meaning is lost. Leave it alone. It says what it means and means what it says. So until next time, I hope these words of mine encourage you in some way. You are a sovereign, independent individual. You're independent of any government power. You're independent of any global nation. You're independent of any union of global entities. You're a sovereign, independent individual. And if you go by the laws of nature, and nature's God, you will be the most accountable, responsible individual walking the face of the earth. You don't have to live under oppression, abuses, political abuses, and usurpations, and despotism. You don't need a government to tell you what to do. It's intrinsic within you. Use the intelligence and the constitution that God has created inside of you. It's there for you. It's your most valuable resource. Until next time, be an American.